any of us or just not
There.
calling?
Can you hear
Can
us
you hear?
now?
You hear me? They have no sound.
No
Sound is coming.
sound.
I
No
turned the mic on.
sound.
Delay.
How's that? Eventually, sound will be here.
Beep.
Okay, thank you. So, again, well, welcome back to session 2 of Uptown Shadows, which is a Hunter the Vigil role-playing game. This is in support of the Kickstarter, which is very quickly coming to a close. There's only 40 hours left, so if you're interested in picking up a hard copy or a soft copy of what's forthcoming, jump on over to Kickstarter and check out the Hunter the Vigil Kickstarter and give us some support, and be ready to jump in all the awesome yourself when the book ships. Meantime, I very quickly want to introduce all of my wonderful players. Players, feel free to tell us where do we find you on the internet and anything special you've got going on. We're especially looking forward to hearing from JF.
Oh no! I just
It's been
found out
2
I
weeks.
can't say anything yet.
You
I
can't.
literally just asked, and they were like, "No, don't say anything yet."
Well then. So then we'll start with you so you can let us down early.
Okay, great. I'm actually double checking my chat right now to see if there's any more update. No, they said don't say anything. Okay. I really want to tell you. Anyway, so you can find me online at Patreon at JF Zambrano. You can find me on Facebook as James Zambrano. And I'll add anyone until you're a jerk, and then I'll get rid of you. Get ready to have to hear a lot about me ranting about Indigenous rights. Yeah, I guess I have really cool news that I'd love to share with everyone that I'm not allowed to yet.
You were just holding us hostage with this.
You know
this
what
lack
it's
of
like
knowledge.
to be on an NDA.
I know. We're looking forward to it next week. Hopefully. April. Hi.
Yeah, I'm April. I can be found on Facebook, at April Songer, or on here I'll be randomly chatting in the little text blog as April 2007. Otherwise, that's the only place you can find me. I'm not a writer. I'm just happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. Other James.
I'm
James
James Foster. You can find me on Twitter at UmbraVinatier, where I talk mostly about politics, especially today, and game-related things. I share posts like this. I share OPP Kickstarters. I talk a lot about video games that I happen to enjoy. But, it's pretty much nerd central. You can also find me with the Mind's Eye Society, a LARP group that runs World of Darkness and Chronicles of Darkness games here in the U.S. www.mindseyesociety.org. Sorry, and as a little warning, Alan might have mentioned this. I was distracted. I might have to run off at certain points tonight because I am a solo parent until my super smart PhD wife returns from a conference.
Yeah, no worries. Like I said, feel free to bring baby on screen if necessary. Speaking of heck yeah, hey Gabe.
Hey. My name's Gabriel D. Los Angeles, son of Chief Andy D. Los Angeles of the Snoqualmie Nation. You can't find me anywhere other than academia.edu and this Twitch stream right now. I suppose you can find me on Facebook, but I don't accept just about everybody. I seem to have accepted everybody from this group here.
Yay.
I study play and roleplay and game design in the field of learning science and human development, and use that to further Indigenous design, as well as just enjoy nerding out with my own love of games and stuff all the way out to the rest of my life. Yeah, that's it.
Yay. And last but not least, Amber.
Hi guys, I'm Amber Lynn. You can find me as the Rebel Selkie on most forms of social media. You can totally add me on Facebook if you'd like. Don't be a jerk, don't be racist, don't be sexist, don't be any of the things. And also thank you so much to all those well wishes I got last week because I was dying on stream and you were all so wonderful. Everyone really to stick with me through that nonsense. But I'm back and I am super excited to play this game tonight.
Awesome. We're excited to have you. And I am your storyteller, Alan Turner. You can find me at counciloffools.com/blog, or on Twitter at Council of Fools, and on Facebook as Alan, Allen Turner. So welcome all, and we're here to pick up where we left off. And so actually, really quickly, could everyone call out what character they're playing, and what character you're playing, and what compact you belong to? Let's go backwards. So start with Amber.
Sure. I'm playing Harper Threadgood. She is a 31-year-old librarian who is part of the union.
Awesome. And JF?
I am playing Ferdy Massey and his lovely dog, Georgie, I guess I'm also playing, who is ex-tribal police and here to, bring the direct action when the academics start to get too into their books and computers and all the other things they want to do to waste their time.
There's academics and their books. James.
I am playing Dr. Daniel Ayer, Ayer, who is a member of the Loyalists of Thule and a professor of history and folklore at University of Chicago. And he's in his mid-30s, I think. One of the older members, maybe.
Awesome. Gabe?
I'm playing Leonard, aka Leo Calder, along with JF there. We're both members of Sworn. I have thank you for allowing me to make edits, Alan. I've adjusted for my AI to be a retainer now.
Oh, awesome.
So that'll be fun, interesting to talk to myself.
Can I still call him Philip?
Yeah, does your retainer have a name?
It's Philip now.
It is Philip.
Playing an indigenous non-profit conservationist who kills things that go bump in the night, I guess.
Let's see.
We're so the opposite spectrum.
and then April.
Indigenous buddy cops.
I'm playing Shelby Mason, who is also a member of the union. She is 30, and she is a veteran paramedic. She just started hunting down things that go bump in the night when she saw too many things in her ambulance that she could not explain.
Let's see. Fair enough. Yes. And so when we last left our academiacs, they've all been pulled together by the death of a friend, an acquaintance, by the name of John Hart. Various ways people made their way to the morgue, with the exception of Harper, who stayed back and kind of managed communications with John's daughter. The rest of you, one way or another, found your way to the morgue, got various bits of information. The biggest one being that you eventually got to see the body, and the body was in a terrible state of disarray. There were shattered vertebrae, there were shattered, crushed ribs, crushed upper arms. Upon further investigation by by Shelby, you discovered a strange stuff in both the fingernails of John Hart's body, and also lodged in John Hart's throat. We were able to pull something out of his throat. We weren't quite sure what it was because it dissipated into dust once it was exposed to the air. But it looked an awful lot like a glob of hair or string or tendrils of some sort. And there was something similar underneath the fingers, and upon closer look from Ferdy, something flicked into Ferdy's eye. And Ferdy, you might want to get that looked into.
I watched it.
Watch it.
I watched it
Bernie
immediately.
has the most close-up investigation of all of us. That's all that was. That's all that was.
Meanwhile, Leo was able to gather some information from the clerk outside, where he found, what was it, a book?
The book and a key.
And a key. And Daniel, as I recall, was beginning to research information about critters that are associated with hair.
Yes.
Yes. And so that's so that was a fairly intense and harrowing evening. And as the night fades and the morning comes, where does the group's interest lie? Where would you like to start? What would you like to do?
Get some coffee.
So the other thing about today is initially that it was meant to be the day for the memorial of John Hart, Werewolf Jesus. Are you at a standing desk, Gabe?
I am.
Oh, that's cool. So options in front of you right now are you've got the key, you've got the book, you've got some information about the glob of hair, and you've got connections with John's daughter, Mary Ann Starr, who is coordinating the memorial, and you also she directed you to his ex-girlfriend, partner, Suzanne Laurie, who was, for a long time was the only person that he kept really kept in touch with. So the memorial is later on this evening, and so this morning you were saying you want to start off by getting some coffee, and then what are your goals?
I think Shelby's goal, aside from also caffeinating, is checking in with Ferdy to make sure he doesn't have any odd feelings after something was flicked in his eye. If he needs any eye drops or anything.
Ferdy, it was an interesting night for you. There's you got in there, you washed your eye out, everything seemed kind of good, but you had restless sleep. You found yourself awakening on a regular basis with a sensation that someone was coming or moving close to you in your slumber. You ever have that experience where you feel a presence and you wake and you look around and there's nothing there, but you can kind of feel it in the room with you? That was much of your night. You weren't sure if it was an issue of you awakening in dreams, or if you're actually waking up and having that experience. But the morning finds you a bit worn.
Where does Shelby live? Like, what kind of house does Shelby have?
I imagine she just lives in an apartment complex, just on basically just right outside the basically outside of the loop of I think 65. I can't remember. 265. Just no apartment complex, okay. Basically on effectively the still largely urban area right outside the loop.
So you're kind of a Southsider. Yes.
So I think that Ferdy's restless sleep was in the back of his pickup parked in Shelby's apartment complex, probably in 2 parking spaces, in a sleeping bag, and so he's probably up pretty early after his bad sleep and is willing to have his eye looked at and is like, we need to start with coffee and you got any smokes, because I ain't slept right, and smokes are sorted out. Give me a pack.
Smokes are sorted out. Got them squares.
She is definitely a smoker and will have. She has had too many long nights, so she will offer coffee and a cigarette.
That's the way to start. That's a good morning.
And so Harper, how is Harper's morning? Does she go to work, or does she call in?
I think considering everything, she probably calls in. And I think considering I was on kind of the other opposite end of everything that was going on, I think I want to send a message out to people and see if anyone wants to converge at someone's place to kind of figure out where we can go from here.
Do you send that message?
I do.
So yeah, you via text, email. How does it go out?
I think I'm probably going to send it via text, and hopefully someone gets the word to Ferdy.
So yes,
got him insights. Just let him know this is what we're going to have to do.
There's a chorus of notification chimes as your phones let you know that let you know Harper's intentions. What are people's responses to that?
I already got coffee, and I'm already on my way to the library where that book is from.
Oh, okay. That library is actually a few blocks away from your library, Harper.
So,
Anybody else?
Do we want to meet at a library? Because we can hang out and wait for people to show up here. It's not a great apartment, but
it's fine.
Or you can hop in the truck and we can go down and read some books.
Well, it's just talking to people. I got this. I can do this by myself. It's just talking to people.
So I'm thinking that Daniel probably spent most, if not all, of the night doing research.
Okay.
Should I roll for that, or
Sure.
is he just super tired?
We can call that an intelligence plus occult.
Yay, I like that. Let's see.
While Daniel's sorting out his research, is anybody else going to the library to meet with?
I don't mind meeting up at the library.
Yeah, and I think considering I work in the stocks department of the main branch, I think I could probably get some of the cross-referencing done quicker. Maybe I don't know, but I'll be down there. I'm assuming because of how the branches work, I can be employed at any at least
sure.
That's how.
Yes.
I can't. Yeah, I'll head down. I'll meet up down there with you, and we can probably just let ourselves in.
Was there anything noticeably wrong with Ferdy's eye this morning?
Oh, was there something wrong with Ferdy's eye? I'll come back to that. Let's go over to Daniel first. What are your results?
Is this an extended action?
It is.
Okay. I'm already at 8 successes.
Oh, then you're more than fine. So
16
bits of cryptid observances in the area. You first off, you're surprised. You may be surprised to note that there are numerous reports of hairy entities in the area. In particular, it's mostly ghosty type things. Someone saw there's a park bench where people have spied this old woman, possibly of Asian descent, who sits on the park bench, and she's got long hair. There's a cemetery in the area, and there are reports of a young girl with who's basically got long scraggly hair that is everywhere, and she pops up from time to time. She's kind of a ghostly hitchhiker type.
Yes.
There are reports of little hairy creatures all over the place, and that's just not. It's not just Uptown. That's like all over Chicago. People have seen like these little people, mostly seen by elders and children, but none of these come off as malevolent, with the exception of there are a couple reports, and you get to these kind of sideways as you're going through. You wind up going through some police reports when you're following leads on the death of the little girl in the cemetery. Numerous people who are in the tent cities in the area. That is, underneath the viaducts, near the train where groups of homeless have gathered. They have reported relatively recently sightings of this person who is always never actually approaches the camp, but some people said, "Hey, it looks like Cousin It." Other people have said it looked like some old hippie, some guy with a lot of beard, but no one really got a good look on him. But everyone felt unsafe. And with a recent rash of disappearances of people in those spaces, people are very vigilant, looking out for each other. They suspect that someone has been picking off people on the fringes.
Now, is there any correlation in the disappearance? Is there any similarity? Some of my early research said, Southeast Asian mythologies. You said
Penanggalans was like one of the first things that popped in your head, and that's kind of like a weird vampiric creature where it's a female creature female presenting creature that detaches its head from the rest of his body and flies around and feeds on people.
Oh, right, yeah.
And there have been various stories with immigrants about there being one of these things and like a hag type thing in the area. But those stories are mostly from the late 70s, early 80s. And nothing like that reported recently. Though, also associated with those stories is another recurrence of information about this guy who hangs out on the periphery and just kind of watches. People call them the watcher or the looker or the creep. And anyone trying to approach him found that he would retreat and kind of disappear, and they could never track him down. But he was hairy as all get out. What was your total? You got past an 8?
Yeah, I had actually stopped.
Okay.
Because you told me not to.
Yeah, you're more than beyond. So
I was at like 28, I think, when you asked me to stop after 4 rolls.
Then the last thing that you would get out of this is that looking at other bits of information, there's an interesting pattern of the only one of these creatures, these types of sightings that appear on a regular basis, is this creepy guy. And so there's a rash of sightings of him in the 70s, late 70s into the early 80s. Then there's also a rash of sightings of him in the early 50s, and then there's some reports about something like this in the 20s. And they're all, for the most part, in the general vicinity of the Uptown, Ravenswood, Edgewater neighborhoods.
So about every 30 years.
Yeah, more or less. It's not a consistent
Perfect.
number of years, not a perfect number,
Okay.
but there's definitely moments when this reoccurs.
Okay.
So there's that. So and your great expertise, cross-referencing with other things suggests that whatever this guy is, he's some sort of, for lack of better words, hairy man. And there are numerous types of hairy men stories from just all over, right? Some of them are indigenous, some of them are Appalachian, some of them are, people bring variations, and typically the hairy men are some sort of troll. They're typically not very malevolent. Variations are Sasquatches and Bigfoots, but then there are hairy men who are more like some kind of entity or a troll, and those can get pretty nasty. So at this point, you don't know what kind of hairy man you're dealing with, if it is a hairy man, but it could. It's sounding like it's moving in that general direction.
But does his beard look like yours?
It's better.
Oh, okay.
More hair, less man.
I think that probably takes Daniel to about dawn, and then he collects a whole box of 5-hour energy drinks and heads to the meeting with the academiacs.
Okay.
I can't
With, like, a
wait to
stack
just
of
judge
notes.
you. I just
So, who's going to the library? Raise your hand.
I think we all are.
You all are, okay. So the library in question that you're gathering at is...
First.
Yes.
First.
Oh, you're first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we got there first.
No, you get there first. So when you get there, Gabe being the first person to arrive, this is a local branch. It is the Harold Bazazian Chicago branch of the Chicago Public Library. It's a small library branch, but it's interesting and kind of renowned on the north side because it's one of the few branches that has a large folklore library. Second to the Soldier Library, which is one of the regional libraries. What was interesting about the Bazazian Library, however, is that it services a wide range of people speaking different languages. So that folklore library is not just in English. It covers a wide language base. And when you get there, the doors are closed because it doesn't open until a little bit late. And there's already a gathering of people in various, older people, homeless people who are looking for a place to sit and read, waiting outside the doors for them to open. And that's kind of where you are as your friends begin to arrive.
I'm making small talk with some of the homeless people.
Okay. Anything in particular you want to say to them?
Just come here to get to know more about a friend of mine's life. A guy by the name of John Hart. I don't know if you ever seen him around here.
So most of these folks kind of keep to themselves. But there's a fellow by the name of Tom. His name is Tom because he introduces himself as Tom multiple times to you. Once you begin talking to him, he is so delighted to have someone talk. He's a younger guy, beard that reaches down to his belly, real big bushy eyebrows, very weathered skin. He's definitely been outside for a long time. Has an earthy aroma about him. And you ask him about John Hart, and his eyes light up. He's like, "Oh yeah, I know John," and he begins to just kind of rattle on about how John used to come down to the tent city over on Lawrence Avenue, and he would pass out food. Sometimes he would bring boxes of feminine hygiene things for the ladies. He was just this guy who went around to all the areas, and he would just sit and talk. And Tom Chaud played checkers with John on a regular basis. John would come down there and talk to Tom about what's going on, who's causing problems, and he kind of treated these people like they were relatives that he had to look out after. And John was good for that. He'd been a vet. He traveled around. He did a lot of. He kind of had this protector instinct.
While he's talking about that, I get onto. I guess I'll assume Amazon is winning at this point and still in existence, and order a bunch of everything that he just said listed out, food, hygiene products, and have it sent out to the camp.
Well, is that really a place you can send anything out to? Because it's like, it's underneath an underpass.
Sure.
So you actually have to walk over there and deliver it to people.
Sure, I'll put it in as a special note for the delivery drivers to pick up on.
I guess what I'm saying is that the driver will bring it to you. You personally have to take it over to them. The Amazon people won't deliver it to like the underpass.
Dang it. All right, I'll just have my AI take care of that and send that all that back to the house.
Okay.
In the meantime, I'll press on. Where was John? Where was John hanging out at? What was some of those stories that he was telling you about recently?
So Tom just rattles on. So Tom is one of these people who has to preface everything he says. And so he prefaces the last time he talked by talking about the time he talked before, and
Nice.
then what they had for dinner and blah blah blah. And he goes on. It takes about 10 minutes for him to actually get to the point. But he says recently he had been hanging out. He had a tent over off of Foster Avenue, and it looks like relatively recently John had gotten a little off kilter and got kicked out of his SRO apartment, which is not too far from where you are. He says it was over there on he was over there on Kenmore, and they hung out and they did a bunch of stuff together. But so he got a tent and he just kind of was filling the tent up with stuff over there on Foster Avenue.
All right.
And so while he's telling you,
flip the guy $10 at least.
okay, he's very appreciative of the $10.
Yeah.
And while you two are talking is when Harper shows up. And Harper, describe yourself as you come in.
I mean, like what I'm dressing or what I look like?
Yeah, a
or...
little bit of both. And it's winter time, by the way. I forgot to mention this.
Okay, so probably, I mean, wearing this really fancy blazer, but you probably can't see that underneath. I'm probably wearing like a black parka, hand knit hat, some thick boots that, because I'm assuming I probably do a lot of like public transportation, so making it around the slush and the poor infrastructure that is inner city Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. And I come up and I'm holding this ginormous coffee mug, and I just make a beeline right to Leo.
No problem. So the nice thing for you, Harper, is that you have subbed at this library a few times in the past, and they know you pretty well. They actually at one point offered you an acting up position, so that you would kind of help as an assistant manager for a while they were searching for an assistant manager. And so you're relatively well known, and it's not too hard for you to get into the place. And you don't have keys, but the head librarian would easily let you in.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to do is knock on the door. What's your name? Leo. I forgot to ask you, what do you look like?
Vaguely like this.
Sure.
Right? Got a bandana on, hair kind of unkempt-ish. I mean, I guess it looks good since JF said it looked good. But conservationist scientist. So I got my woolly denim coat with wool lining on there, heavy boots, and cargo pants, of course.
Cargo pants, of course.
Yeah, and the coat's got pockets big enough to hold my tablet, which I have on hand, as well as my smartphone.
Okay. Shelby and Ferdy, are you two coming together?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Unless you don't want to.
Nope. I'll just put my med kit in the back of your truck.
All right, and
Yeah,
yes,
Georgie will protect it for you.
and everyone is more or less arriving at the same time. You see Ferdy's truck pull around out in front of the library. There's a parking spot. Luckily, you're there early in the morning, so it hasn't been taken up yet. And does Dan drive?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I imagine he would.
So Daniel as well. So in a matter of moments after you finish talking with Tom Child, all of your compatriots begin to arrive. And there you sit, there you stand before the Bazazian library doors, ready to go in and investigate.
We got a private room we can get into? Is there a meeting room?
Private rooms. Okay, so that's a good question. Like I said, this is a small branch. Do you wait for the doors just to open, or Harper, do you just kind of try to get everybody in there ahead of time?
I probably just look at the head librarian on staff, and I'm just like, I know this is really unorthodox, but I've got a couple of friends who are trying to get some dissertation work done. I know we've got like a half hour, 45 minutes. Is there any way I can like sneak them in for a quick look around, just because time is of the essence, and I have a couple of things I have to do today before I have to head to main branch. Yeah.
Sure.
Do me a favor?
And you know what? That is surprisingly not even a problem. The assistant head, Karen Turney, who is this children's librarian in the space, she is more than happy to let you in. She's chatty. She's got her cup of coffee and is just spilling out all kinds of random thoughts as you come in, talking about things going in the stacks, talking about orders that didn't come through, the fact that there's some hold on taking in donations, and it's really pissing her off because there's all these donations that are stacked up, and she's just going on and on and on about library business as she opens the door to let you all in.
Daniel's definitely going to need some help. He's probably, if I know my teacher style, he's got like a duffel bag, not a duffel, a satchel bag, and one of those like cloth shopping bags full of like papers and folders and files and books, and he's probably carrying a bunch of stuff.
Okay. Would you grab all your stuff? So what are people looking like? We've heard from Leo and Harper. Not James. Dan has all this school stuff. Ferdy?
Probably wearing the same thing I was wearing yesterday. I'll put my cigarette out before I go inside.
Okay.
I truly do.
Yes.
When I larked the inspiration for this character, he was wearing tweed, complete with the leather patches. I don't think Daniel is that nerdy, but I'm sure he like pegs as, what you would think of a stereotypical college professor.
Sure.
Hey, Danny, brother, you need some help carrying those books? They look heavy for you.
Yes, please, Ferdinand. This is quite heavy.
All right, Danny.
And then Shelby.
Full name.
Shelby is just kind of a flannel and jeans kind of person off the clock, but she's probably just wearing a standard wool coat and comfortable like function over form boots, and she has one of the first aid fanny packs on her that on her equipment list of that comes with like an EpiPen and a diabetic test kit.
Okay.
That she just carries with her all the time. But if as she passes the homeless people, she will double check to make sure that no one is exhibiting signs of things they shouldn't be. They should be looked at, and if everyone generally looks fine, she'll continue on it.
Folks generally look fine. Their skin is a little wet, their lips are a little chapped. Some people look like they're a little hungry. But beyond that, people seem to be in good spirits.
Okay.
Inside the library, so as I said, this is a small but well-used branch. It circulates very well. As you come in, the first thing that hits you is the smell of oak carpet. There's a carpet here that has had multitudes of things spilled and cleaned on it, so there's just kind of an overall olfactory residue. There's also a slight sewer smell coming from the bathroom because that needs to be tended to. And off to the right is the children's area, which is also the area where most of the folklore is at. And off to the left are the main stacks, where mostly the adult area. Directly in front of you, as you come in, is the main desk, and just off to the right, behind the main desk, there is the event room. They don't have much more in the way of rooms beyond that. Everything else is kind of the back area where the librarians hang out. And Kieran suggests that if you wanted to use that back room, that event room, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, you can grab a seat at the tables. But she can't check anything out until they officially open.
Mm-hmm.
Harper, she said, you're welcome to use the machines at the main desk, or if you want in the back room, the librarian's main back room where the lockers are, and use one of the computers back there if you need to use a computer. Everybody else is kind of on their own as far as machines go. So that presumes you have a laptop or something to work with. There, I'm sorry. Over in the to the right in the children's area, there's a bank of public machines available that people can log into to pull things down. And then there's also a copier off in the adult section. So, thoughts, ideas?
Unfortunately, because we have the book, so we can scan the book in, and in theory it should show us the list of books under that same library card if there's anything else taken.
Easy.
I would be totally interested in trying to scan the book and see if he had any other books taken out, or what his bank history looks like from books that he's taken out in the past.
Sure.
If he has any outstanding late fees on anything.
Who's got the book?
Nobody?
Did you not take the book?
Stuff?
Oh, wait.
Was it left? Did we grab the key and not the book?
Of course, because we couldn't take the key out of his effects. We weren't his family.
Oh. So you took the key.
Yeah, I took the key.
But you didn't take the book.
Larson the hell out of the key.
You do have his name.
I thought you stole both. For some reason, I thought you stole both. But you have... I mean, I could probably still...
I mean, it's all digital at this point, right? You can still check records.
I mean, you can still check records. It's just easier if you have a library card or a book to scan. But we could totally just look them up by last name.
Yeah.
I got the key.
Totally can.
Good. No, only because you know that key goes to.
Right.
I mean, I guess I can just go over to the computer, type in his last name. Ideally, one of us would know a birth date, and we can just click on his name, see the book he took out, and see if he has any other books out under his name or any outstanding fees on any other material.
Sure. I will call that just a general intelligence plus computer.
Cool.
Were his effects in the same room as the body?
No.
They were the main clerk had his effects.
Okay. Yeah, I was misremembering. I thought Leo or Ferdy had the book for some reason. I can't remember why I thought that.
No, Ferdy walked away with something in his eye.
I washed my eye.
It's it's 9s and 10s that are successes.
For your profession, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
8, 9, 10.
8, 9, 10. Yeah. Sorry. 8, 9, 10.
Okay. You can reroll 10s.
Yep.
Oh, unless your profession, then you reroll 9s.
I have 4 successes.
Awesome. So, luckily for you, Hart is not a common name in the area. There are a handful of Harts, but only one spelled the way that John Hart's name is. Mm-hmm. And so you're able to quickly look him up. And there is a interesting history of stuff. There's lots of folklore books, some history books. Let me find my list here. Hold on a second.
Start cross-referencing with my library.
Where is this at? So, things that stand out to you. Mm-hmm. Checked out a book called Trail Signs of the Indians by Raymond Jansen, Ph.D., which is the book that you saw Leo at the as part of his effects. That was actually the book that helped him to identify who he was. There's a book he still has checked out called Mysteries of the Trail Marker Trees by William McLean, and another one called Cultural Management of Living Trees, which is a collection of writings by various researchers. Also, he's checked out a book called Grandfather Tales. Multiple times he's checked out a book called Grandfather Tales, a book called Jack Tales, and many different versions of Wiley and the Hairy Man.
Hey. Do any of these books regarding the trees kind of have any cross references with any of the hairy man folklore? Like, is there any similar? Is there anything similar, like maybe a specific type of tree that has to do with any of the hairy man legends?
Um, no, nothing that jumps out, but there is. Hold on a second. There is a natural history of Uptown, which lists the various conservation efforts in the area over the years, and it shows all. Well, from the back, it talks about how it shows how the area's been gentrified over the years, and how the nature in the area has been torn down to make way for various buildings and schools and things like that. And that's the only one that is actually still here at the library.
Okay. I guess I'll look up the call number and find that book.
Okay. So you do that. You dig it up. You go over into the history section, and yeah, there it is. And Mr. John Hart's a bad boy. He has been marking inside of his books a lot. There's lots of dog-eared corners, but there is a marker, a bookmark. It's interesting because it's actually a piece of like shoe leather, like moccasin leather that he's using for the bookmark that he's kind of left in the book, and it's on a page, and the page is, where are you at? Let me find it. The page talks about the old Holmgren house, which was one of these large multi-generational houses that was all over the area in the early days of the Uptown neighborhood, and how things were built up around it. And it may take some reading to kind of dig through it. It doesn't have a whole lot of pictures in it, but he's just got some notes in the corner about the tree. It just says the tree is here.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to deactivate the alarm on the book and just quietly pocket the book and bring it back to the back room.
Okay.
I'll return it later, I promise.
You're a librarian. You can just check the book out.
I could, but...
Paper trail.
Yeah,
Paper trail.
yes, exactly. Like,
right.
I'd rather not be associated with this book at the moment.
So you pocket the natural history of Uptown, and what do you do with it?
I'm assuming people, I'm assuming some, like, Daniel's probably looking around as well. I'm assuming maybe Shelby and Ferdy are already waiting in the back room, in the conference room. And
Yeah.
I guess I'm
just drinking coffee, maybe rolling my eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So Daniel probably hasn't started a search yet. He's probably spent that 20 minutes or so spreading out all of his notes all over the table in kind of a frantic, caffeinated energy drink level crazed vice of nervous style. Like, he has printouts of news stories going back to the 20s apparently. Those little newspaper clippings that you can pull up. The name of the machine is completely escaping me at the moment. Stories about the hairy men, references to mythology. He's got a couple of books from his own library. Probably, I'm guessing he doesn't have any of these specifically, but maybe he will track them down later.
So you do have access to both Grandfather Tales and Jack Tales, as they are relatively common collections of different types of Jack stories, which also kind of coincide with lots of weird creature sightings that you've come across in the years.
In my giant search, could I have found the Wiley and the Hairy Men book?
Wiley and the Hairy Man is a widely published children's story that is really, really, really easy to find.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So maybe I'll like walk into the kids section and just pull it off the shelf while I'm, all I can think about is that meme with the guy with like stuff all over the wall going like this.
Yeah.
So he's just got all of his notes and he's trying to frantically explain it all to Ferdy and Shelby, who are probably just like sipping their tea, like what?
Tea.
Tea.
At some point, Shelby has taken some of his 5-hour energies and politely set them aside, and is just like, that is your limit. You are insufficient after that. But no, I actually remember that I forgot to verify what was anything wrong with Ferdy's eye when I checked.
Oh, right. So Ferdy's eye. You go and take a look at Ferdy's eye. Ferdy's eye. Ferdy, your eye itches a bit, and it was a bit red.
Does anyone have a knife? Scissors.
I do. You want to take it, Danny?
It was a bit red when you look into his eye, but it looked like it was more so from him rubbing it than any particular infection.
Hope you wash your hands.
If everyone recalls that scene, my immediate response was to go to the sink
Yes.
and wash my hands.
You
and
washed
my eyes.
thoroughly out everything. If you could have taken your eyeball out and scrubbed it down, you would have done so. But yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything in his eye that you can see with the tools available to you. At least not easily. Depends on how thorough an examination you get, but like a cursory glance with like flashlight, pin light, and kind of looking into his eye doesn't immediately reveal anything.
Okay.
However, Ferdy, that eye does feel a little bit light sensitive.
Oh, okay. Can I? If that's been the case since this morning, can I adjust my wardrobe? I'm wearing everything I wore yesterday, and like a beaten up old felt hat.
Sure.
That I have pulled low.
Knock yourself out. Yeah.
You
got the hat on.
Where's your old cop sunglasses?
Oh, they're somewhere. Actually, you know what? I think Georgie ate them.
So, Daniel is expounding on a variety of theories, it sounds like, things that he's come across, things that he's found in his papers, when Harper comes in with her book. Anything to relate to the group, Harper?
I just take the book and I kind of plop it unapologetically down in the middle of Daniel's paperwork. And so
you'll crumple it.
So, although I cannot discourage this man enough for leaving us breadcrumbs, he has left us breadcrumbs. He's made a lot of notes and specifically on this page talking about these very specific old antique houses and a tree. He keeps mentioning a tree. And if you look at all the other books he took out, there's trees everywhere. So
what tree? Because I remember the tree of the book that he had circled.
It just says tree. He didn't. It says if you look at it, it says the tree is there.
What tree was what was circled, Alan?
There's no picture. It's a very heavy textbook.
No, in the
other book. In the other book, it was a marker tree. It was like this tree that's kind of bent over an old native trail marker tree.
But like tree species and the type of mark.
Oh, tree species was an elm.
Okay.
And that was the thing he wasn't quite sure. That it didn't give much information on was what the mark was. The best that you could get was it was somehow a denotation of a dangerous area.
I draw it on a whiteboard.
Yeah, and then the other presumption that he had noted in the book was that it could be marking a burial mound. So it could have been danger, or it could have been be careful because this is a sacred place kind of thing.
And so I've drawn up on a whiteboard
Mhm.
and yo, Ferdy,
Yeah,
what does it look like?
looks like someplace that maybe we don't need to be going. What it looks like to me.
But if if the bad guys are around here,
Well,
Creeper. He's called the Creeper.
Was it- oh, that's right, all your research is everywhere.
How many people here are called the Creeper? Is that what you stayed up all night to find out there's a Creeper in Chicago?
I thought a creeper was one of those things my nephew was really into blowing up his stuff.
Daniel like pulls up a random news story and like shoves it at Shelby.
Okay.
She's just like, honestly, the Creeper occurs more than every 30 years. It's pretty daily. This is a terrible name for a villain.
I was gonna say that creepers, white guys spend too much time on Tinder. We experience that like 6 times a day. It's
Yeah.
fun.
She mostly is giving Daniel shit, but
He's used to it.
So, where was I going to go? So you've drawn this tree to the best of your wonderful eidetic memory on the board, and you're in a conversation about this whole creeper person. Who has the book? Harper, do you still have the book that you took out?
I put it in the middle of the table.
Okay.
Like I opened it and I left it to the page that had the most markings and where the leather bookmark per se was, with the words in the corner and the type of house.
Okay.
How do you pronounce that type of house again?
Oh, the name of the house is the Holmgren House, Holmgren, and it's just a house from the neighborhood, that was apparently torn down back in 2005.
Oh, okay.
It is now 22x. It is the future.
Is the tree still there though, or was it a victim of Dutch elm disease?
Oh, do you dig into the book? Do you read the book? Do you read the book?
I mean, if no one else is, Danny's probably gonna scoop it up. But I am grateful for team working actions.
while you're doing that, I'm gonna go over your notes and take pictures of all of them with my tablet and send them to my AI.
I'll help you read the book.
Okay.
Danny obviously passed out like thumb drives. He saved all this. This was all printed out in his office while he was like, it's all laser printer. He's gone through like 4 reams of free university paper.
Danny does not slack. Fool
All
does
right,
not
well,
slack.
then I'm sending all that digital package to my retainer AI, Philip.
Philip the AI. So the book itself is some really dense text. It's one of those kind of books where all the typed stuff is like at best a size 8. It's really compact and it's just chock full of it's a bit of a chore to dig through, but you're able to pull out the following bits of information. So and it's just within those few pages in the book. So the Holmgren house, owned by Jeffrey and Geraldine Holmgren, was built on land that they got dirt cheap in 1860. There is this huge tree that they could not uproot that was there in front of the house. It was twisted and gnarled. The kids built swings on it. They did all kinds of stuff with it. But it was the roots went so deep, and it was such a thick tree that without really intense equipment, there's no way to take it down. So they left it for a long time, and they built around it. And right next to the tree, they even dropped a well. Unfortunately, that well ran dry, and as the area got more people in it, and a real sewer and water system, they capped the well, and so it wasn't very much in use.
Oh, good.
This was built to be a multi-generational house, but it didn't work out. They had 12 children. They had 12 children, and they all died either due to war, sickness, or suicide in that house. Eventually, Jeffrey passed, and Geraldine maintained the house and sold it in 1937 to pay bills. and then went back home to Sweden where she passed. Another family moved in, so it stayed empty for a while after she moved out. Another family moved in 1943, but they left quickly, citing the house had quote-unquote unusual airs. It was bought again in 1956 by an Andrew Riley, who apparently went mad.
Yes.
And the bank reclaimed the house. It sat there unable to sell until 2005 when the small housing boom hit Chicago and condos were going up everywhere. They loved the land and the well and built a 4-story condo building on the land. There's a bunch of tenants who tried to move in, but they all moved out, saying they felt uncomfortable due to the high levels of gang crime in the area. The condo was abandoned in 2015 and has been abandoned ever since.
All right, sounds like we have a typical haunted house situation on our hands.
Ferdy's gonna walk over like casually to Leo, sipping his coffee, and kind of just like lean over and whisper, maybe just a little bit too loud. You want to tell them how this is gonna end for them? Or should I?
I'm pretty sure that it's built on a.
Yeah. No, I mean, why did I even get out of this alive?
I plan on making this through until I'm old and gray, and I'm at least going to definitely outlive you if you keep talking like that. Keep talking smack in my library.
I'm not worried about you and your library. You stay in the library, you're going to live. That's true. But we're not talking about your library right now, sis.
I mean, we got to do something about this heart situation.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of sitting back. Like, just because I think we should go check out the elm or the tree or whatever it is.
No, we should. I just want to make sure you know that there's a traditional story, and the story doesn't end great for certain people.
I mean, yes, I feel like we have all. Okay, oops. Yes, I agree with you. But, however,
as long as you agree,
I'm
gonna offer her a cigarette.
Ferdy?
I just tap on it and hack away because I'm not used to smoking cigarettes. But like, I don't know what else to do.
While you guys are having this conversation, Ferdy, could you give me a roll of wits plus investigation?
Sure. Does my corpse specialty apply?
No.
Okay. Oh, wow. I got 3 successes.
3 successes, yeah. Well, so you're having this banter, and out of the corner of your eye, you notice that there is someone in the back corner of the room watching.
The good eye?
What do they look like? I just turn to look at them. I'm still sipping my coffee.
You turn and look at them, and that's just a weird way that the light is kind of hitting that bookcase.
Yes.
I'm gonna pull out my phone and actually open up my weird text program, whatever. I don't know if I know how to text everyone at once, but I'm at least gonna text Leo and say, and I'm gonna write one word, just ghosts. And I'm staring in the corner still.
I'm gonna go run out to the car and go grab my DSLR camera with the night vision bits and run back in with it. And I guess, like, try to spectronometer.
I don't say anything. I'm just
moments when I wish I'd taken the seance merit.
Does anyone
thing as EMF meters right now?
Before we do that, does anybody have any merits that make them sensitive to supernatural occurrences?
Gut feeling technically does ish.
Oh, okay.
Danger.
How does gut feeling work?
So gut feeling is when you're encountering a situation in which the supernatural has some kind of influence in. It's more about like researching the situation, but it's the flavor text is pretty vague and up to you.
A cult reaction.
So, a cult reaction. At this point, the only thing, Ferdy, you texted everybody or just Leo?
I mean, Leo can text everyone, but I'm fearing Ferdy is like, well, I know how to make this one work. So.
Okay. So Leo's phone, as Leo's phone chimes, the only thing that happens for Daniel right now is just an uncomfortable feeling in the pit of his stomach.
I'm already gone. I went to my
Yeah.
car.
Probably
And
about
then
5 hours.
Leo jumps up and runs off. Moments later, he comes.
And also, Ferdy is still staring into this corner,
Yeah.
sipping coffee, but hasn't looked away or blinked.
Harper just got weird. 1 second, you two are engaged in some bit of smack talk, and then it's like Ferdy just completely disengages, and his gaze goes over into the back corner.
I was just, Ferdy, I wasn't serious.
The library ain't safe for you either, sis.
Oh, God. Thanks. Oh. So, is this a cold read? Like, what do you got going on over there, friend? You know? Does it have hair or a tree?
It's
There's nothing over there.
I know it's evaded me.
How
Is the creeper here?
Yes, there's 3 of them.
Sure.
How
Did I get back with my camera?
In a moment.
can you avert your eye, like look at me again the way you were looking at me, but with less disdain?
I wasn't mad at you, sis. I'm just warning you.
I'm joking.
That's a thing that people assume, and it comes from a heritage of misunderstanding, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we can just accept that we're all in this together. I'm not here to hate anybody.
I appreciate that. Do you notice anything right now?
Do I?
Don't turn your head, just look at me.
Look,
Do you notice anything out of the corner
looking
of
at-
your eye?
Looking at her,
Mm.
no. But you can do something for me.
Oh,
You can. Where the hell is it at? It's a resolve check.
For me?
Yes, for you.
Okay. Well, I have some of those.
oh, good.
Just make a
Just resolve?
just resolve.
Can I risk a willpower then?
You may if you wish.
And it's a resistance one, so I think it's only +2 on resistance, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, so minus resolve?
Considering I am kind of in his round, like, is there anything I could do to help Ferdy with his?
At this point, no.
Okay.
It's
Wait,
just
are you rolling resolve?
I did. Is that not what I'm supposed to do?
Well, a resistance would be subtracting, or contested would be rolling.
It is a-
which
it is
would
a
be
contest.
+3.
it is
Okay,
a
so it'd
contest.
be a +3.
Okay, I'll roll more.
You got this.
I got 2 successes.
Not dead.
No.
Just cursed.
When she tells you to look back on her, it's actually a little uncomfortable to kind of look her in the face. It's weird. Like she's saying all this nice stuff to you, but it feels like she's trying to agitate you, and you have to kind of catch your breath.
So,
All right.
And then and like for a second it's like her face is like seems like dark and angry at you, but then when you kind of catch your breath, you're like, oh wait, you're just feeling a little anxiety.
Do I have enough wherewithal to realize that that's unusual, or is it just it seems normal to me? Like, it doesn't seem supernatural.
It definitely feels. You've been doing this long enough that you know an external influence.
Okay.
If it's like a nudge,
I'm gonna.
and then it's
lean
gone.
over- Yeah, but I'm gonna lean over and whisper, and say, "I think the ghost is in you now."
Oh, I mean, I feel fine.
You do feel fine.
With all of people looking really uncomfortable, specifically at the origin of Ferdy, I would like to make an empathy roll using my empath merit to see if he has any mental conditions currently.
Have at it.
Okay. Here we go. Two successes.
Two successes. Harper seems pretty okay. However, Ferdy does seem a little jumpy.
I was just using the merit to detect if he has any current mental-based conditions.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. So there's more of a little bit of a, and there's like this anxious
Okay.
energy coming off of Ferdy more so than anybody else in the room. At least in that
Okay.
moment, it was really intense, and then it seemed like it faded away.
Gotcha. Okay.
So meanwhile, door bursts open. Here comes Leo,
Leo's the
Bristling.
ghost in her now.
bristling with stuff.
That was fast. I guess I just start taking pictures immediately.
Okay.
Turn on the digital recorder in my phone, and take some shots of that corner and then of Harper.
Okay. So you're just gonna
I suggest that he try taking a photo of Furry.
Okay.
And Ferdy. Maybe in the eye, especially.
Daniel has enough awareness of the situation, despite his current hyped up, caffeinated self, to reach into his pocket for his taser.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just give him a look like, really?
You don't know what I'm reaching in my pocket for.
There's definitely an energy in the room, however. So Leo starts doing his picture taking. Everyone else is kind of there trying to figure out what's going on. Leo, what do we have here? Is that... Let's call that occult. Intelligence plus occult. Because you're particularly trying to capture things like curly auras and all that kind of weird stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that.
I'm just gonna say, if this ghost actually is in me, you all have my permission to knock my ass out and perform an exorcism if anyone here is qualified for that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I learned that at church. Just like the rest of us.
Does my sworn come in on this one for an extra die?
Yes.
Okay. And then
I can't really help with exorcisms, but I can help put you to sleep.
Is this at all any way indigenous?
Is it indigenous? That's a good question. Sure.
All right, there's another die. That's good. Okay. 3 successes.
3 successes. Was that you rolling your dice? Oh, it's on your phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Onyx Path app.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you, as quickly as you can, set up your stuff. You start taking pictures. You start trying to get readings. You're moving around. So there's lots of interesting thing about this library as you're going around. There's lots of little cold spots all over the place. Not just in this room, like all over the library. However, there's nothing in that corner that he's pointing at. Nothing seems to be amiss with Harper. You do, for a brief moment, get a temperature differential around Ferdy, but then it resets itself, and everything's back to normal. by time you do your second or third check to kind of have a, um, a body of numbers to compare things against, everything is normalized.
I share that all out in process. There's something wrong with you, bro.
Shit.
But it ain't stable.
I'm gonna go outside and have a smoke. And he just walks out.
That's
You might want to smudge too.
30.
I don't. Maybe in the truck. I'll check.
I'm going to acknowledge that I have ran out of the pack of cigarettes.
Do we need to perform an exorcism?
What?
Well, I mean, the thing is,
It's not a demon.
yeah, I don't.
We said
His eyes
ghost.
possessed or something, maybe.
Yeah, but it's a ghost. Ghost isn't demon.
No,
I
I
think
don't.
it's a
exorcise a
thing from a
ghost?
corpse.
I mean, we don't know that, but we can assume that. But also, like, if this is, I mean, ghosts aren't necessarily bad. They could just be upset, and I would be upset too if I got torn apart. I don't know.
And stuck in someone's eye.
Stuck in someone's eye. I do think we need to. I would like to be transparent with Ferdy, but I do think we need to monitor Ferdy and find someone who can help us with this, or at least do some more research and figure out if we can do this ourselves.
I wasn't saying it was a bad ghost. I was just saying maybe we should get it out of his head.
I mean, yes.
I'm gonna go back out to my car and grab the sage from my glove compartment and go smudge off.
I'm out there smoking anyway, so
Yeah. So
we got tobacco and sage, and we'll get it out.
out in the car, in your truck, sitting back, you
With
take
Georgie.
with Georgie. You take a few drags on your cigarettes. You did have like this flash of anxiety. It very much reminded you of like how you felt when you were trying to sleep last night. And it seems to have settled. Maybe it was the nicotine. Maybe just kind of getting out of the room with all those people. But once you're outside, and the sun is shining, coming through the window, and you're just kind of chill with Georgie, you feel so much better. Leo comes out, and so you're going to break out with the smudge action.
Yep. Yeah. We got it. We got ghosts out here.
You got ghosts out there. All right. So, how do you go about it? And is anybody else going to assist with this, or is it just you?
I'll assist with it.
You're gonna self smudge.
Yeah.
Do it together. Yeah, I'll smudge him too. He just got close to it.
Smudge who? Oh, Leo.
We'll smudge each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, where would this fall under? It is kind of an exorcism.
I mean, it's a cleansing.
It's a cleansing.
Yeah, I think exorcism. They changed the rules for it in second edition.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up inside the.
Well, he's looking that up. Shelby will ask Daniel. So besides the creeper, do you have any idea what more this thing could be?
Well, so the creeper is just what they called it in the 70s, which, kind of makes sense. It has other nicknames, but it shows up every couple of decades, there are reports.
Yes.
And it
Pretty
may
smart.
be associated with, and he's like looking at this legal pad and he's got all these notes written on. But it's kind of it's not exactly a Sasquatch, but it's kind of a Sasquatch-ish thing.
Is it malevolent?
Is
Well,
it
I mean-
like tall and large like a Sasquatch?
Well, it's like, my notes say it's usually humanoid shaped with a lot of hair, but
So it's-
everyone who sees it feels unsafe, and it's usually associated with like disappearing homeless people. Alan, the page you want is 140 in the core book.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it is a hairy guy who makes you feel unsafe,
Or who may or may not eat people.
who may eat people.
Well, maybe not eat, but like,
Definitely disappear.
yes.
Is there any like?
Okay. So
Okay.
this is a resolve plus composure roll for Ferdy.
Okay.
contested by the entity's power plus resistance. However, I would allow an assist from other people by doing an occult plus presence in the case of the smudge.
Plus presence, can I get a dice bump from my indigenous supernatural in there?
You can.
All right, that's
because you're
dice.
doing it in an indigenous rite.
Oh, and then one more for sworn, right?
Yes, and so every success that Leo gets is going to give you an extra die, Ferdy.
Okay.
So meanwhile,
6 dice.
6.
3 successes.
Oh, 3 successes. Okay. Can I risk willpower? Oh, it's once per scene. Never mind. I'll just spend willpower.
And I know how many successes. Okay. So,
yeah.
Meanwhile, back inside, you all are having a conversation.
Yeah. So it's a hairy guy who.
I mean, it correlates with a lot of different myths, legends, and folklore. I mean, you've got Sasquatch, you've got Yeti, you have there are Appalachian mountain men who are considered to be less than human. I mean, and you've got I've also run across stories about I mean, the entire world has variations on this theme, and there are a lot of sightings. And he pulls out a whole file folder of hairy supernatural creatures, but it's this specific one that, I mean, they call it the creep, the creeper, the looker, which doesn't make any sense to me. I think that one was from the 20s when they didn't know what they were talking about. The watcher. It's just a lot of different names that involve this weird, creepy guy who just kind of observes, and he never joins the homeless, the tent cities or the groupings. He just kind of watches, and then people are always creeped out about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it fits all of the weird circumstantial evidence that we've been finding involved with, Hart's death.
Okay.
So, put down hope for a second. Back in the truck. Outside the truck, 'cause you have to get out of the truck to actually do the smudging. Leo smudges you up and down. Ferdy, front, back, feet, head, the whole 9 yards, turns you around, and there's an interesting sensation rolls through you. There's this sensation of it's almost like you're high. The smell of the sage goes right to your head.
I swear it's just sage. I swear it's just sage.
And it gives you a very sharp, cool sensation, like your head is suspended high above the rest of your body. And for a split second, you are aware of a shadow detached from you.
Aware as in I feel it? Or
you
aware
feel
as in
it.
I see it?
You feel it and you kind of see it. So it's like you're seeing yourself, but you're not in yourself.
It's a shadow of myself?
No, it's not your shadow at all.
Okay.
And it kind of pulls back and it separates itself from your shadow, shakes violently for a second, and then disappears like a wisp of smoke. And then there's a sharp pinch in your eye, the eye that got the fleck into it, and rub it, and there's a pinchy thing on your finger. And you see a very long, jet black sliver of hair, and it writhes like a worm.
I'm going to immediately stuff it into my empty pack of cigarettes.
Okay.
And close it.
Good idea.
You stick it in the cigarettes, just kind of scrape it off in there, you fold it down, and
I hand it to Leo.
Yeah. That's what
I
you see,
shake
Leo.
my head, and that's all I...
Run to the car, get a Tupperware, get it more sealed.
Yeah.
Put a little bit of the smudge in around it, and then smudge the entire box.
Okay.
After I close it.
You smudge the living smudge out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There is the whole area is just reach the sage, and actually your process isn't just sage; it's a process of sage and tobacco, and then it followed up with a little bit of sweetgrass to clear the area, and things seem to kind of come to a quiet. Meanwhile, inside, and you two can come back inside whenever you decide you want to do so. Inside, you all are having this conversation about Harry and lookers and weirdos and creeps and such things. Who is this? Harper, you're a librarian.
I am.
And you more than likely have had to, at one point or another, read various children's stories that overlap with some of this stuff. So I would actually like for you to give me an intelligence plus academics roll.
I also have the merit library. Can I roll for that?
Yes.
3. So hold on. So that's academics, library, and what was the other one?
Intelligence.
Plus a die. And then I can re-roll 10s, correct?
Yes.
That is 5 successes.
Okay. So lots of things kind of ring bells. There are, so when Daniel is talking about all these hairymen types, and he's talking about Sasquatches and this and Yetis and whatnot, you definitely recall having read more than a handful of stories, or some in these colored fairy books, red fairy book, the blue fairy book, whatnot.
I own like 18 of those.
Yes, awesome books. Various hairymen stories. There's also the Wily and the Hairy Man, and the more he describes, the more it sounds like one of these types of things. At least it sounds more and more like the stories that you've read to kids and young adults. Of like this thing is kind of almost like a weird kind of dark force wizard type person who moves around doing all kinds of heinous things, which is very different from your Sasquatches and your Yetis and whatnot, because those tend to be more like tribes of people that wander around, and this is something else altogether. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing that stands out to you. Daniel, where's my list here? Oh, there's one more thing that stands out to you. I'm sorry. This is a Harper thing. As Daniel's going through stuff, and you're looking at that book that you brought out, it occurs to you, only because the library's had a couple events based around it. Let me find her name again. That Geraldine Holgren was actually a bit of a personality in the area for a while. One of the first Swedish immigrant families to come to the area, and she did some talks about what it was like to be in the area during the times of the bootleggers, and some of that stuff is archived at the downtown library. But more importantly, she used to tell all kinds of spooky stories, and she would do it up at the Swedish American Heritage Museum, which is not too far from where you are just west of Uptown is Andersonville, which is mostly a Swedish neighborhood. She used to tell some hairy man stories, and they supposedly have a collection of some of her diaries up there at that museum.
Can you spell that last name again?
Holmgren, Holmgren.
Thank you. And that was Geraldine?
Geraldine, yes. Yeah. There were 2 Holmgrens, Jeffrey and Geraldine, and they had a slew of children. but they are the well-known personalities in the area.
Okay.
So, at some point, I take it, Ferdy and Leo come back in,
Really, actually,
perhaps.
because it matters to me.
Mhm.
After this is over,
Mhm.
Ferdy puts a hand on Leo's shoulder and is just like, "Thanks, brother. What you want for lunch?"
Oh boy.
And then we can go back in.
Okay. And then you go back in. Fair enough. What is Shelby doing all this stuff?
What she'll be doing is trying to figure out like the supernatural element to the whole situation. Like obviously it's very hairy, but she's trying to figure out like look through all of what Daniel is seen. But she seems at a loss for it because
Sure.
she's generally a logic based person, so she's trying to figure out the supernatural aspect of it, and she seems at a bit of a loss.
Right. So at this point, what you have to work with is information about this hairy critter, creeper person. You've got information about Mr. and Mrs. Holmgren. You've got information about their house. Excuse me. You've got information about the various trees, and you've got a number of periods during which this thing supposedly has appeared. You are in the library. This library does have a microfiche machine. It's got as one of the few in the city that actually still has a microfiche machine. It has collections of old newspapers, and it has access to a swath of databases. If you wanted to dig any deeper.
Okay.
So, what do Ferdy and Leo do when you come back?
I smudge the rest of the room.
Okay.
I'm gonna help them.
Okay.
So we just walk in and start burning sage and not communicating.
Yeah.
What about it?
Yeah.
I will accept this as like important. Like it's like no, and can you also smudge me, please?
Oh yes.
So
you had the face.
Daniel's gonna throw his tweed coat over the smoke alarm.
okay. So luckily for you, there is both a large native population and Southeast Asian population in the area, and this library is used to having people come in and do blessing ceremonies and whatnot. So when Kieran sees what it is that you all are doing, she kind of acknowledges it and kind of goes on about her business. And yeah, you quickly go around the entire room and kind of do your thing.
Yep.
At that point, the doors are opening and the rest of the public is being led into the library. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning now.
How many people are coming in?
There's easily about 15 different people, mostly adults, actually all adults.
I'm gonna go offer free smudges.
A lot of them look at you kind of oddly.
Sure.
They don't take you up on it. There are a couple. There's an African American couple that takes you up on it. And some people who are, they look like they have some mixed heritage, possibly Southwestern, maybe Mexican, some kind of Latinx. They also take you up on it. And then a handful of witchy types who engage. They're
Nice pentacle.
very excited to have a smudging at the library.
They're very excited to have a real native person do it again.
And so once that is over, what does the group do? Or either as groups or as individuals? What's your next move?
Well, we're going to this death house, right?
I mean,
What about the houses? I mean, the jingle. I jingle the key.
No.
what is the key for again? Can you refresh my memory?
It was among its FX.
So we don't know what the key goes to.
It did have an address on it.
It has an address.
Okay.
It's probably at this house, and it's a door to our doom. So
I
let's go
mean,
check it out.
Well, our good friend Tom over here also said that he had a house. That should probably be checked out too. And then...
So, and then, I mean, also, Mrs. Holmgren has some diaries on display at one of the local museums.
Mhm.
So we have like 19 pieces of information to run with in no single direction.
Mhm.
I mean, I know our good friend Ferdy is probably all set to go in guns blazing to this murder house, or lack of murder house, because I don't think it actually exists anymore. But
Murder condo.
murder condominium. But how do you? I don't know. Do we want to go? Do we want to get some more research? Check out these books, see what she had to say about the hairy men, or do we want to go to the tree first? I'm personally invested in the tree, but we can do either. We can do both.
The tree was there.
The tree's there, yeah. The house is not. We have this key for a.
Well, the tree is not there anymore either, remember?
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
You're correct.
When they built the condo, they leveled the whole area, the tree, the well.
Yeah, but a well goes down. Where's that well?
Hard to
Yeah,
pull out all
some
the
of
roots.
some of the hairy men stories I found
Mhm.
suggested vengeful spirits.
Some
good.
suggested vengeful spirits. Some suggested just bad spirits.
Yeah, we already had an example of that.
Oh,
On a point at
Yeah.
30.
And
I wonder if we'll find something in those diaries that might help us deal with murder condo.
Murder condo. I mean, I'm also on a very side note.
Mhm.
This thing that was inside your eye, Ferdy, that came from the corpse, right?
I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but yes.
Should we be worried about this corpse? Like, is this corpse like
Yeah.
affect other people? Like, should we be worried about more of this residual stuff happening to other people, especially like his daughter when they go to collect the body?
I don't think they're releasing it, so that I'm not worried about that as much.
Okay.
Yeah, but the coroner's going to get infected.
Yeah, you might.
He might get infected, but also every time we tried to pull a sample from the corpse of the hair and everything like that, it turned to ash. The only time it didn't immediately turn to ash is when it hit Purdy's eye.
Yeah. Not a one-time thing, though.
Yeah. So I'm not sure because the coroner wasn't exactly initially thorough.
You want me to go back in and get it out of there and get it somewhere safe? I can make that happen.
Yeah, you seem to have some kind of jurisdictional.
I don't. I just lie about it, but they believe it. So
I mean, that's fair. I mean, so
I mean, we already have a story, so if you want to just go ahead and quarantine, then that's fine too.
maybe we can also do a smudging on the body as well, since that seemed to have helped alleviate what was going on with you.
not a
Gonna
bad
need
idea.
they're going to need a hunter's burial at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
also whatever to put that poor soul to rest as well, because we don't even really know if this is affecting this guy post-mortemly, right?
I don't know, but I do know that I got a bunch of empty gas containers in the back of the pickup there, so we can make it happen.
Okay.
All right. So
What's important, what's interesting, what's interesting, what's important, and what's imperative.
Imperative would be safeguarding other people within the coroner's office.
Okay, that's a top-line priority then. What's important? We still need to gather some forms of this information, and then there's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I think obviously we've established what's important is safety. I think another along the lines of important is establishing whether or not whatever happened to this person is still actively out there more than just and if it's more than just a spirit.
Yeah, I'm with you, sis, because I think that the corpse probably ain't going to do the same kind of damage that the actual entity is.
Yeah.
I agree.
Dealing with the corpse is just, ironically, the easiest task ahead of us.
That's not ironic. Corpses don't normally move.
Well, considering it's in a relatively secure location, is what I meant.
Yeah.
But, Alan, in all of my research, indicate that the creeper had currently been associated with people disappearing.
That's a good question. So most of your research digs into past stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. You had a huge number. So things that stand out to you. There has, and someone heard this last night, that there has been a recent rash of disappearances in the area. Mostly, again, people who are in the outskirts of society. People making their way home from bars. There are people. There are a handful of youth. There's been another thing is there's also been a lot of gang activity lately in the area. There's actually something happening in the general neighborhood where there's fighting between at least 3 different gang groups in the neighborhood who had relatively recently, up until recently, been at a relative peace between themselves. There's been a lot of unrest in the various tent cities in the area. And the thing that stands out to you about this is that every time there's a sighting of this creeper, there's a lot of unrest in the neighborhood. There was a big throwdown between various mob groups back in the late 20s, early 30s when it showed up. There was a lot of civil rights action happening that ended in some riots back in the 50s, and they all kind of more or less kind of coincide with the sightings of this creature. There is certainly a certain amount of chaos that seems to follow it. Shades of the Mothman.
Yeah, I was about to say, sounds Mothman-y. As my neighbors go crazy. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, so it definitely seems like he's causing and or precedes civil unrest. Alright, I guess the corpse isn't imperative, just maybe important. We don't want anything else happening. We don't want anyone else being ghost infected like Ferdinand was.
So,
how do we deal with this with the funeral coming up?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm in contact with his daughter. Maybe I can encourage her to push for a cremation. Like, if I'm honest with her just enough to let her know that the body really isn't in any shape for anyone to see, maybe I can encourage her to sign paperwork for the cremation rather than a viewing or something.
I'll aid in that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, I guess maybe we could do that. It's the only real thing I could think of, unless anyone else has any suggestions.
No?
No, that's the right way to handle it.
Yeah, it's the best idea we've got.
I think then it would also be good to go to places where John's effects would have been to see if there's anything worth funeral memorial space. And we can investigate at the same time.
What are the chances that key is for his apartment?
You haven't really looked at it yet. It's just got like an address tag on it.
Pull out the key. Does it look like a car key, a house key?
It's a house key.
A lockbox key. Oh, it's a house key.
Looks like a house key. Looks like a door key.
Does someone want to Google Maps this address?
Boop, 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 boop.
You Google Maps the address. Hallelujah. And
It needs cars.
it comes up with the Major Jenkins, which is an SRO facility, single resident occupancy apartments, men's apartment, off of Kenmore Avenue.
Just like it's the key to where Tom was saying it was. We're good. We're golden.
That's all that gives you.
I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my contacts, my fellow coworkers, if they've. I'm basically going to describe vaguely the wounds that I've seen, and if anybody has recently come through the ambulance with anything weird like that.
Yeah. So, two pieces of information for you. One, you are familiar with the Major Jenkins because you've had to do lots of pickups there on a regular basis. There's lots of elders who are in the space, lots of people who are in recovery, and so it's a regular occurrence that an ambulance is called out to deal with somebody who's either having sickness or they're on their deathbed, and you all go up there and do wellness checks on a regular basis. So there's that.
Yeah.
The second bit of information is, there have certainly been some of those. There was an older gentleman who was found, a Thai man who was homeless in the area, who had been found behind this restaurant called Sunwa. There's another, further west, there's a pickup in the old X&A Studios lot, which is now part of a school, which name I did not write down. St. Augustine, which is a college in the area, which used to be part of the old Charlie Chaplin S&A Studios. The lots behind the school, they found someone who had similarly been crushed, and they thought there had been some kind of car accident or something that had caused the problem, but they were pretty mangled. What's happening, James F?
I'm trying to
get
get some notes going.
You just killed us.
Sorry.
Yeah,
you just hit the screen.
Oh no.
Never mind.
You hit share screen.
Oops.
Shoot. Nope, that's not the one. There we go. You're back.
Yeah, looks funny on the stream.
Yeah, I just.
It'll
saw
catch
that
up on the
happen
stream.
Oh, yeah, that's not what I was intending to do at all. I apologize. I thought it would just turn my face into the little list, but
You take over the hub.
Yeah, it took over everyone.
Yeah,
it's okay.
We're
back. So this is actually a good stopping point because we're getting close to the end of our time here.
No.
And at this point, we are left with some big pieces of information. You know the location of his apartment. You have information about diaries at the Swedish Museum. You know about the various tent cities in the area. You know about some missing people. You know where the old building was and where the condo was built at. And so now you just have to make some decisions about where do you go.
How do we split the party?
You split the party.
I hate splitting the party. Nothing good happens in splitting the party.
We will pick that up next week in session 3, and call it a stop right now.
Do we want to open up to the chat to see if anyone's around for any kind of Q&A, since we've got like 5 minutes to kill?
Sure. The unfortunate part about that is that the chat is like a little behind us.
Gotcha.
But sure, if anyone has any questions, or you want to...
Yeah, the first couple people maybe you can type them up quick.
Beep, beep, boop.
Beep, boop.
Any questions or comments?
You're gross. You're gross.
Nope. I don't see any responses yet.
I look forward to splitting up the party.
Me too.
Yes.
Yes.
We got this combination of Haunting of House Hill and some other awful references that were also made.
Some people commenting
Yeah,
about.
I heard
screen
ring
share.
and hairy people, and I was
Yeah.
well, and hairy people. I was like,
Oh, here's a question. What inspired your characters?
Oh,
It's a good one.
that is.
Oh. Jordan with the win.
Who
Anyone?
would like to go first?
Sure. Amber?
Oh, me. I would like to go first. Okay. So Harper. So the thing is that I knew going into this. I've actually been joking about it in our own private chats. Is Harper is kind of like a double jointed Sherlock Holmes. Like I kind of based her off of a lot of the less known female Nancy Drew-esque characters. And I also, in my time when I'm not streaming and keeping you all entertained, I work in an after school enrichment program. And one of the things I do is once a week I go to the library, the public library, and I take out about 30 to 50 books for the kids in my classroom. So I'm constantly in the library. And that kind of feeds into it as well. Yeah, I think, I believe that that's everything I kind of pulled for inspiration for her. A lot of, 90s flavor of the week, monster, Buffy-esque things. That's where I get her from. Check.
Yeah. Very cool. Anybody else? Inspirations?
For me, it was my brother and his wife work in the health industry, and I have a lot of like family that works in the health industry, and it's just that's where I got this inspiration. And my brother was curious in seeing the stream, and I was torn between concepts, and I asked him what he'd want to see in a character in a Hunter the Vigil game, because he doesn't know anything about it. And he says, I would want to see the game from a perspective of fresh into the supernatural. So that's where this all came from, is just my brother and my family's in the health industry, and they have always the craziest stories, and just freshly experiencing the Vigil.
Very cool.
Anybody
else?
I based Daniel on my very first LARP character, who was a nerdy, anxious professor of history who knew way too much. And it was actually a Requiem game, and he was a human, so he was weirdly helpful to the vampires. And I just thought that I admit that when we were kind of coming up, before we all talked about concepts, I thought I would be the know-it-all, and most other people would have like branching out, and then we all became like the academics, the academiacs, and I kind of shifted him to be a little bit more of the little bit of the paranoid conspiracy theorist style, and it works with Thule too. The Thule write-up in the new text has a really good update, and I just wanted to explore that.
So the character's name, Leonard Calder, is a mashup of Leonard Snart and Niles Calder. Leonard Snart, Captain Cold from The Flash and Arrowverse, and then Niles Calder, Chief from Doom Patrol, with the vices of arrogant and the what the other one of patient, and so. I had full intent to speak entirely in Wentworth Miller's voice, but because computing became so cool, I'm definitely aiming at a very much more Felicity Smoke kind of want to use all the tech to do the cool things for everybody else feeling, and it's really interesting feeling that intersecting with my own indigenousness in this space, which like. What a cool, fun moment to have today here with JF. So like that, never seen that happen inside of a role-playing game before, where
that's cool.
My own culture gets to be a part of a play space. So this was really, really rad.
Cool. And so we're actually kind of coming to an end on time. There was a question about
No,
no
one wants to know about my character.
Oh,
You wanna know about your
JF, give us your character really quickly.
I borrowed like a little bit from Matthias from Longmire and Big Frank from Chambers,
Yeah.
and then also just inserted a couple people I know.
I mean, I adore your character. I think it is such a lovely polar to all the academics in this group, and you and April's character are just a really wonderful balance to all of everything else going on. Like,
Cool.
When we were brainstorming at first, I was gonna play like an elementary school teacher, and then everyone had their super academic concepts. I'm like, I better have a big gun or something.
to protect these small, soft beings.
Yes.
Because it's not going to be them.
Well, thank you everyone for being part of this slowly growing narrative, this story, bringing it to life with your wonderful characters. And we look forward to joining our Academiacs again next week as we dig deeper and go into some dark and spooky places. Thanks to everyone who's come to check us out, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. And real quickly, you can go around the horn and say your names again and where you can be found on the internet. We'll start with Amber.
And your pronouns.
And your pronouns.
Oh,
I'm sorry,
thanks.
and your pronouns. I'm so sorry, I keep forgetting to do that. But yeah, please share us your pronouns.
All right, and we're starting with me?
Yes.
Sure. I'm Amber Lynn. My pronouns are she, hers. And you can find me on all forms of social media as the Rebel Selkie. Yep, that's it. Check.
Cool.
I love you all. Come back next week.
Thank you. James? James.
Which one?
Please.
Not JF, James.
Oh, so I'm James Foster. You can find me at Twitter on Umber Venetier and with the Mind's Eye Society at www.mindseyesociety.org and he, him.
Awesome. Gabe.
My name is Gabriel D. Los Angeles, son of Chief Andy D. Los Angeles. My pronouns are he, him. You can find me online, I guess, and academia.edu and some other places where my papers have been published. And you could probably even find my keynote speech on YouTube if you really want to see me talk more about culturally responsible game design.
Very cool. April.
Hi, my name's April Songer. You can find me on Facebook. I was commenting in the comments section through April 2007, and that is all. You can find me on the internet, I think. I don't know.
Awesome. JF.
I'm JF Sombrano. You can find me on Patreon at the same, on Facebook at close enough to the same. It'll be easy to find me. On Twitter is at JF High, and my pronouns are he, they. And I like to write for Onyx Path, so there's maybe next week I'll get to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'm Alan Turner, your storyteller. I'm a writer for Onyx Path. I'm also a writer, designer, publisher of my own book, Edgegore, the role-playing game, which is an indigenous horror game. I like to think of it as post-cataclysmic tribal horror. And I can be found, my pronoun is he, him. And I can be found on the internet at Council Fools for Twitter and councilfools.com/blog, just to find my blog and all of my random musings. Thank you again. Thanks, everyone. Also, do not forget that we only have a few more hours left for the Hunter the Vigil Kickstarter 2nd edition. Go in there, jump in there, and participate. It's a great game. And
1,100 away from the next milestone.
1,100 away from the next milestone.
Under 1,000 away.
Oh my goodness!
It's at 91,197.
It's crazy. Get on it.
Wait, do I need to Kickstarter this now?
Nah. So
Yes.
Good night, everybody. See you later, and until next Tuesday. Bye bye.
Woo, woo.
Woo woo.